Real Virginia is proudly produced by the Virginia Farm Bureau Federation. Since 1926, Farm Bureau has been working to preserve Virginia farms and our rural heritage. Visit our website at vafarmbureau.org.
Home will always be Virginia, between the Blue Ridge and Chesapeake Bay, Atlantic to Appalachia, home in my heart always.
Hello everyone and welcome to Real Virginia, a show about Virginia agriculture and the people who produce all of the wonderful products we enjoy.
This week we highlight environmental measures performed by farmers and why they are helping protect the Chesapeake Bay. Also, we'll help find the best locations to plant trees in your landscape. And more Virginia apples are entering the fresh market as orchards gear up for harvest season.
Welcome back everyone. We're here at a fruit orchard in Nelson County and it is a beautiful farm indeed. Now we're going to talk a little later on about apples in Virginia. But first, as Norm Hyde tells us, there are hundreds of farmers that are beginning to utilize a new program that's helping them protect the environment.
Kevin Engel has farming operations in 17 Virginia counties. That's a lot to keep track of. And his new Virginia Resource Management Plan helps him pull all of his conservation programs together.
In the areas that we farm, there are a lot of rivers. We have the Pamunkey, the James, the Nottoway, and the Hardware River, various other rivers. And it's important that we protect our rivers and keep the nutrients in our fields available for our crops and not end up in our rivers and ultimately end up in the bay.
Engel uses a number of conservation tools to reduce runoff and keep both his soil and nutrients out of the waterways surrounding his farm. Targeted applications of nutrients, cover crops to prevent erosion, and buffer strips around fields are just some of them. Most of these techniques are required or highly recommended by federal, state, or local conservation agencies. And he's been one of the first growers to implement them. But until the Resource Management Plan program began last year, there was no official way to pull them all together.
A resource management plan is a highly individualized conservation plan for farms that includes several components, including a nutrient management plan to reduce nutrients, a soil conservation plan to minimize soil loss, livestock stream exclusion on pasture, and for hayland and cropland, a 35-foot minimum buffer along perennial streams.
For instance, in this resource management plan, it talks about the different areas that we're farming in and some of the BMPs, best management practices, that we're going to use. And certainly nitrogen and phosphorus management are a big part of that.
Growers sign up to develop a resource management plan voluntarily instead of being ordered to do so by regulations. Glover says RMPs also offer a producer certainty. If a farmer works with a conservation planning expert to develop a plan, he or she will be certified to be in compliance with all future state conservation programs for the next 9 years.
We found that one of the most popular things with farmers with respect to resource management plans is that it is the best way for farmers to get credit for all of the conservation practices on their farms, particularly those that have not received either federal or state assistance.
If you create a problem, someone's going to come help you fix it. And you might not agree with their terms. So it's much better to be proactive and work with the powers that be to manage things in the proper way than to have to be reactive to oversight coming in and fixing your problems.
In its first year, the program's already very popular. Glover says the Department of Conservation and Recreation had a goal of writing 40 RMP plans this year. Instead, 274 plans will be finalized by the end of 2015.
The Resource Management Plan program was actually conceived by the agricultural industry, including organizations such as Virginia Farm Bureau. Virginia is one of the first states in the Bay watershed to implement a certainty program like this, and in fact, the state of Maryland has consulted with us for advice on how they might develop their own similar program.
The Virginia Resource Management Plan program was developed by all parties as a voluntary, state-driven response to the EPA's Chesapeake Bay program. Engel says it shows farmers are taking concrete steps to protect the bay, and that voluntary conservation programs are having an impact.
When you drive by and you see your topsoil staying in the field and the water coming off of the fields and the ditches clean, that means a lot. When I go over and see a dirty river, I don't like that. I want to see water in it, but I want to see the water clean.
Farmers and the general public can learn more about the Resource Management Program on the DCR website at dcr.virginia.gov. So far, the program only covers farms in the Chesapeake Bay watershed, but Glover says it's proven to be so popular, they're planning to expand it statewide in 2016. In Hanover County, Virginia, I'm Norm Hyde reporting.
A new report card on Virginia farmers' conservation efforts found that they are generally on track for meeting milestones to help clean up the Chesapeake Bay. The EPA report analyzed the various conservation techniques that have been put into place in the Old Dominion so far, including buffer strips along waterways, precision agriculture techniques to reduce nutrient use, and fencing livestock out of streams. The Virginia Department of Conservation and Recreation has been tracking these efforts for years and estimates farmers are on target for reducing nitrogen and phosphorus runoff by 60% from 2009 levels.
Hi, I'm Mark Viette. Coming up on In a Garden, I'm going to talk about where you should think about planting trees in your own garden. Stay with us.
I feel that family farms are very important because it's not just a living or occupation, it's a way of life. We live, work, and play right here in one location.
The grandchildren are around, and as often as they can, they'll come and say, "Grandma, can I help?"
There's a lot of challenges, but by having to be a family operation, it makes it all more enjoyable.
This is what I do. It's my livelihood. I enjoy doing it. This is my hobby. It's my vocation. It's a wonderful place to enjoy life with my wife, my children, and grandchildren.
We're putting out a product for other people to drink and consume. We hope they like milk and cheese and ice cream and butter and all those good things.
What I've always done is what I enjoy doing. It's what I hope my family will continue to do in the future.
I'm Gerald Heatwell.
I'm Anita Heatwell.
I'm Monty Heatwell.
And I'm dedicated to dairy, our cows, our milk, and our land.
Finding the perfect spot for a new tree can be tricky. Mark Viette shows us how in the garden.
Walking through the gardens this morning, I noticed one of my favorite crab apples right behind me now, laying on the ground. And it gave me reason to think about where and how and what types of trees we should plant in our garden. And especially the important part was, where do we put trees in the garden? There are certain trees that if they're damaged by a lawnmower or a weed whacker or any other type of equipment, these trees have great difficulty in surviving this. They may not die the first year, but within 5 to 10 years, they may actually die, as this one did, and fall down. If you look closely at the base of this tree, you're going to see a lot of scarring and a lot of peeled off bark. You can see here where we pruned this crab apple probably about 6 years ago, where the new growth is starting to heal over the wound that we created on this tree. But if you look closer toward the ground level and toward the roots, you'll see that when this bark was peeled off of this initial area, very little regrowth occurred. Not only that, this tree had been damaged probably 3 or 4 times since then with a riding mower, and it pretty much ripped off the bark. Eventually, this tree was damaged to the point where all of the dead wood was too much to support the tree that we had here in our lawn. And I have to say, probably one of the leading reasons dogwood trees die is they're planted in the middle of our yard. And eventually, either you yourself, your family member, or someone you've hired to, mow your lawn is going to nick or rip off the side of the bark. And many trees, like dogwoods, don't have the ability of repairing that damage between the roots and the trunk of the tree. So you really want to incorporate them in a garden. And I'll show you some other damage, and I'll actually show you where we've incorporated dogwoods in the flower bed, mulched where there's no way equipment can hit it. But this, as you see here, has finally destroyed this 30-year-old tree. This crabapple experienced damage by a lawnmower in multiple places. One of the things that I've learned is that the damage occurs at ground level or very close to ground level. Trees, or many trees, have an inability to heal. And if we look at this tree closely, I can show you some of the areas that this tree was damaged. And maybe 5–10 years down the road, this tree may blow over in a windstorm or an ice storm or in a snowstorm. This bark has been knocked off this crabapple, and it's going to have a hard time healing over. The key to success in planting trees, especially dogwoods and maybe your maples, is just don't plant them and stick them out in the middle of the lawn. Plant them in a garden or create a garden around the trees where there's no way they can get damaged by a weed whacker or a lawnmower. And you can look how pretty this dogwood here is right in the front flower bed. I don't have to worry about someone peeling off the bark. I'm Mark Viette. Join me next time in the garden.
For more garden tips, go to inthegardenradio.com.
From the farm to your table, we'll explore a delicious catfish recipe coming up from the heart of the home.
Visit the Virginia farm that produced an American legend. See the birthplace of 1973 Triple Crown champion Secretariat, now a Virginia historic landmark, at Meadow Event Park. Our Hoofprints of History tours are given year-round by reservation. It's a perfect day trip for families, groups large or small, and anyone who loves horses and history. Resident author-historian Leanne Meadows-Layden conducts the tours and shares behind-the-scenes stories about Meadow Stable and its most famous son, Secretariat. Meadow Event Park also hosts the annual Secretariat Birthday Celebration at the Virginia Horse Festival each spring. The festivities at the State Fair of Virginia at Meadow Event Park include an annual salute to Secretariat during both weekends. Come see where the legend lives on. Visit Secretariat's birthplace at Meadow Event Park. Virginia has 16 commercial catfish farms. Other farm-raised fish products include rainbow trout, oysters and clams, hybrid striped bass, and freshwater prawns. These farm-raised fish and shellfish can be found at local restaurants and farmers markets. While farm-raised catfish are typically raised in a pond, a few producers are experimenting with indoor tanks. They're popular with farmers because they grow quickly under controlled conditions, and popular with consumers because of their clean taste. And while most farm-raised fish are harvested at about 1 pound each, the world record blue catfish was caught from Bugs Island Lake and weighed a whopping 143 pounds.
Farm-raised catfish makes a delicious dinner, especially if you couple it with garden-raised squash. Former Miss America Carissa Jackson has a family-pleasing recipe courtesy of Relay Foods in the heart of the home.
Hi, I'm Carissa Jackson for Heart of the Home, coming to you from the kitchen at Meadow Hall at the Meadow Event Park. Today we're going to make an awesome summer meal. We're going to be making southern crispy catfish and sauteed zucchini. So to begin, we're going to make our egg wash. I have 2 eggs here. We're going to add the juice of half a lemon. And then a little bit of paprika or hot sauce, whatever you prefer. And then we're going to whisk it together. Set this to the side, and then we're going to make our seasoning batter. We're going to start with one whole cup of cornmeal. 2 tablespoons of your favorite seasoning. This time we're going to use Creole seasoning. 2 tablespoons of garlic. And a little bit of salt and pepper. Catfish is a part of Virginia aquaculture, and you can get it anytime farm raised. And we got this recipe from our great friends at Relay Foods, who also provided our produce and our fish today. All right, shake it up just a little bit. And then we're going to take our catfish and we are going to make sure it's all covered in our batter. And then we will dip it in our flour mix. Shake it around, press it down, make sure all pieces of the catfish are covered. And then we're going to place it on our baking sheet. Our oven has been preheated to 400 degrees. And I'm also choosing to bake it on a rack so that the air can flow underneath and on top of the catfish. You can also bake it directly on the pan, but I prefer to raise it off just a little bit. All right. We will bake these for about 20 minutes, and meanwhile, we're going to go ahead and start making our sauteed zucchini. Now we're going to start making our sauteed zucchini. First, we're going to start with the oil of your choice. I have olive oil here, but you can use avocado oil, coconut oil, whatever you prefer. And we're just going to put some at the bottom of our pan. Give it a few minutes to warm up, and then we're going to add 2 tablespoons of minced garlic. And here I have 2 zucchinis sliced about 1/4 inch thick. You can go ahead and add those to our pan as well. And before I add any more, I just want to make sure that the ones in here are coated with our olive oil. And I'm cooking this on medium. I'm going to add some salt and pepper to taste. And then we're going to let this cook down for about 7 minutes. All right, our catfish is out of the oven and our zucchini has finished sauteing, and it is now time to eat. So to serve, just gonna put 1 slice of your catfish on the plate, a little bit of zucchini. It's a great, quick and easy summer dish to make. And here you have it, Southern crispy catfish and sauteed zucchini. I'm Caressa Jackson for Heart of the Home. Come and get it.
Recipes from the Heart of the Home can be found on the Virginia Farm Bureau website at vafarmbureau.org.
The State Fair is bringing you the best of Virginia. My job is picking it up. Know any driving tunes?
They've been in the bathroom, right?
Hello, ladies. No fight songs.
This could be a challenge.
Learn more at statefairva.org.
Most folks don't think of apple season beginning until the fall, but in fact, many varieties are being harvested already. As Dave Miller reports, more Virginia apples are being sold directly to the consumer.
Virginia's apple industry has traditionally focused largely on producing apples for processing into vinegar, pie fillings, and juice. That's still an important part of the industry, and there are several processors in Virginia, like White House Foods. But the local foods movement is helping boost the profile of fresh Virginia apples to consumers.
There's also a big shift happening, and that is towards away from processing to fresh market apples. So these would be the varieties that we're used to seeing in the supermarket. Gala and Fuji, and now Honeycrisp, Golden Delicious even, and those varieties that are more typically for fresh consumption. Those apple varieties tend to command a higher price back to the growers, than the processing varieties, and so that's why that's happening.
Fresh Virginia apples are also going into a new product, one that has been taking the market by storm.
The cider market is exploding around the country, you know, on the East Coast here too. I don't remember the exact numbers, but I'm going to say 3 years ago there might have been 4 different cideries in Virginia, and now they're popping up all over the place. And the other thing that's a real dead giveaway is what I call the big boys. The large the beer brewers have gotten into the market too. So yeah, it's here to stay, I think. The way all this works, the reason it works out so well is Fruit Hill Orchard has 3,000 acres of fruit, and we grow multiple varieties. So everything that is in the juice that is fermented to make malice, which is our signature hard cider, is 99% our fruit.
Apples grow well in Frederick County near Winchester, Virginia. There's limestone soil, good elevation, and lots of light for the trees. In fact, apples have been grown at Marker Miller Orchards for about 75 years. They sell to lots of different customers.
Probably 60% of it still goes to processing, mainly Nelson, Pennsylvania. The other 40% is sold either bulk, wholesale to other orchards. We also grade apples and supply a lot of fruit stands between here and northern Virginia.
The Pick Your Own season for apples at Marker Miller Orchards begins the first week of August and continues through the end of October.
We grow 22 different varieties here from July to November. So personally, of course I've grown up on these apples. I have to say that the varieties that we've chosen range from tart to sweet and in between. So I think we have a wide variety to offer everybody because everyone has different tastes. So that's what we try to encourage. And we give samples all the time so people can find that perfect apple.
The number of Virginia apple orchards increased to 733 in the last census of agriculture. That's 107 more orchards than 5 years earlier. Growers earn about $31 million a year from apple sales, and that number should increase as a number of new orchards begin bearing fruit. Many of the families running these orchards are multi-generational. Their grandparents have been farming that land, and their children and grandchildren are coming back to the farm.
Where the Virginia growers are seeing opportunity and where they're having some success is in our buy local campaigns and being able to supply consumers in the nearby region. So the Virginia growers are very fortunate in that there's a huge, huge consumer base in the DC metropolitan area and really the eastern seaboard. And so a lot of our fresh market apples are going to those consumers, but we're also seeing the reverse happening, which is those consumers are coming more and more out to the farm. And they want to come out, they want to be involved in agriculture, they want to learn about how apples are grown, they want to pick those apples and taste them fresh off the tree. And those are the greatest consumers because once they taste a fresh apple, they don't go back to tasting cardboard apples. They want juicy, high sugar, high flavor apples from our growers.
In addition to apples, many Virginia orchard owners are now also raising peaches and vegetables, growing cherries, and doing all they can to offer local foods to consumers year-round. Many farm visitors can now shop and bring home a full week's worth of produce in addition to a bushel of apples. In Frederick County, Virginia, this is Dave Miller.
That's going to do it for this edition of Real Virginia. We are so glad you could join us to celebrate the bounty Virginia has to offer. Whether it's in your home, your garden, or your landscape, we are proud to say that this is Real Virginia. So for everyone from the Virginia Farm Bureau, thanks for watching. Make it a good week.
Home will always be Virginia, between the Blue Ridge and Chesapeake Bay.